Because if your spark is gone, you feel like you can't do anything. But if an external trigger, like in my story, the shoe, is the thing that pushes you forward, it's the thing, but something that triggers momentum in you that will help you feel, I would say fulfilled, but it will help you feel good. And it creates the feeling of, I can do this. I haven't lost my spark.
What if the reason you're burned out or unfulfilled at work has less to do with your job and more to do with how disconnected you've become from your own spark? That inner spark is your energy, your drive, your sense of possibility. In this episode, you'll get a new way to recognize where and why you feel stuck in your work and in life, and simple strategies to reclaim your energy and take momentum-building steps, and a mindset shift that helps you lead yourself with clarity even when nothing around you changes. My esteemed guest, return guest, is Heike Yates, a coach and the author of Pursue Your Spark. Heike, in your work, you help people rediscover strength and fulfillment by rebuilding their confidence from the inside out. And today I'm excited for you to share insights from your book, Pursue Your Spark, to help people see what might be holding them back and how to start showing up differently, not just in personal life, but at work and beyond. Heike, welcome back to the Life Fulfilled podcast.
Bernie, it's a delight to be here. I love being on your show and exchanging information and sharing my book with your audience today.
Fantastic. Well, I'm excited to have you back. You were on episode 110, and so that was quite a while ago. So let's get right to it. Your book, Pursue Your Spark, I've thumbed through it. It looks really terrific. And I know that you talk a lot about being stuck, right? So let's start there. What does it mean? You even describe a gap, right? A gap between where someone is right now versus where they want to be. And so what does that mean? How does that gap impact people? What does a gap look like?
You know, many people don't realize that there is a gap. They just know they're unfulfilled. Nothing's the way they want it to be. Everything seems out of reach, and they have this dream. Maybe it's just somebody else doing what they might want to do, or just something that they thought maybe, I would love to do that as well. But then they're stuck in this gap where they are in their reality at the moment and way far away from what their actual goal or their dream would be. And this gap becomes wider the less we address it. What is it that we need to do or even overcome to jump over that gap and move on to fulfill our dream? And so this is where I look at the gap, and everybody has it, but not everybody really wants to acknowledge the gap. And that what definitely keeps us stuck, not acknowledging that gap.
Okay, you kind of read my mind there, Heike. So how does someone even begin to, because I talk about self-awareness all the time. So if I'm stuck, but I'm not acknowledging it, what's going on? How do people just come to that point of acknowledging a gap?
It goes down to self-protection. If I acknowledge that there is a gap, then I must be less than. I'm probably not good enough to actually identify a gap or acknowledge that there's something that's missing in my life. And I'm afraid to step forward and take the first step and find all kinds of excuses why everything is fine and everything is great. And I keep living a life that's unfulfilled. And stepping really into the fear of acknowledging that life is not the way I want it. Stop self-protecting yourself by saying, oh, now is not the right time. I'm just going to stick here and this is good. And not really letting yourself look at yourself on the inside and say, what do I really want? What is it that I want, not somebody else wants? And how do I move forward in that? And the self-realization that comes with that is so scary for so many of us and uncertain of what it will bring. So that's why my book started out with the gap. Figure out what is your gap by looking at what your needs are and what you see yourself as in the future and what's missing.
What are some signs or signals, warning signs, if you will, that someone could be thinking about in terms of that gap?
I am not good enough to move forward. Who am I? I'm not smart enough. I haven't gone to college, or whatever the hang-ups up that we all have about not holding ourselves to our higher standards that we can, but putting ourselves down.
In the book, you talk about starting small. So elaborate on that. What can that look like for people?
How do you show up at work is a small step. And when you feel that you have nothing to give and nothing to offer, I feel you dragging in, and rather than dealing with the situation at hand, like overcoming your gap, moving on, pretending that everything is fine as it is, you wish you go somewhere else, wishing that wherever you go next would be your next step. And this would be a way of how you would reclaim that spark, and that burnout would suddenly go away, where I think it oftentimes may have not to do with the environment, but how we stand up for ourselves and the boundaries we set with the people around us. So this momentum to start small comes really from a sense of that we're restoring our agency for us, not for somebody else.
And is there a small step that that just anyone can take? I've talked about the power of incremental progress, because there's so many things in my life that I've done in small steps. I wrote a book way back in 2009. Taking small steps, is there something that you can share from the book? What is just one of maybe several, I'm not saying it needs to be one, small steps someone can take to begin to feel like they're getting unstuck?
I think a lot of times that I don't have to do things. I choose to do things. I don't have to stay late at work. I choose to, for whatever reason. Could be an external reason, could be a self-worth issue, but that you change the I have to I get to choose to. If you choose to stay late at work, it is a choice. But setting these daily non-negotiables, for instance, I'm not going to do this job. I just say no. This is a no for me. I finish at 5 p.m. This is a hard stop for me. Setting the boundaries that we mentioned earlier and saying, you know what? I choose to say, no, I will stop at 5, and hold myself accountable for that step that I took and not feel bad or guilty because I chose this is what I want to do. So your boundaries, your non-negotiables, the shifting the internal language from I have to I choose to is so liberating. It's scary, but it's liberating.
Yeah, I love that. Something else you talk about in the book is energy, and I know that a lot of times when I meet someone, one of the first things that I notice about them is their energy. I also notice the opposite. Like I notice when someone is lacking energy. So why don't you speak to that? How can people really think about their energy, harnessing their energy, shifting their energy to really, again, make progress on feeling unstuck?
I did a podcast episode about the energy suckers that drain your energy that we sometimes don't think about. For instance, the drive to work is an energy sucker. You drive, like my husband drives to work sometimes 40 minutes to work, and then he drives home for an hour and a half to come back home. These are the energy holes that leak our energy that we have control over, but we're not looking at what drains our energy. And once we realize what drains our energy, then we have an opportunity to fill those gaps. As we're talking about, or I'm talking about the what's draining your energy, but what fills your cup is positive people. And most importantly, is self-care. Yes, everybody at work can still practice self-care, protecting your time, protecting your lunchtime. For God's sake, I don't know how many people I talk to who eat lunch at their desk. That does not give you energy. It gives you fuel so you don't keel over, but it doesn't give you the joy and the energy.
That kind of leads me to where I want to go next. That also is in your book, and that's the topic of self-leadership. That's a huge topic for me, Heike. I'm talking a lot about that. Anybody that's been listening to the Life of Phil podcast here over the last 20 or 30 episodes or so, they've heard from me and others about self-leadership. So speak to the role of self-leadership in terms of helping people really pursue their spark.
We all have an opportunity to pursue that spark when we know what we want. We know what still is under our influence, so we're not influenced by other people, and we have a clear direction of where we want to go, which might take a little while. But I feel that the direction is helping us to get clarity in the things we want to achieve and the steps we want to take. We're bringing things to the point where we are holding ourselves responsible for the outcome, not other people. It's not the boss or your coworker. It's what is within your control that you can seek out to direct in the way you want. Because again, we go back to, I don't have to, I can choose to. And that's the same with the self-efficacy in this case. What is it? How do I lead myself? And the more I lead myself, the stronger I become as a leader and as a person.
You just said something, the stronger I become as a leader. I want to unpack that a little bit with you, Heike, because one of the things I talk about is that we're all a leader at somewhere in our life. We may not be a leader in terms of a job title. We may not have people reporting to us, which would be associated with a job title. But leadership is influence. So we may be a leader in other ways. So maybe speak to that in the context of pursuing your spark, because I think a lot of people sometimes either limit their view of leadership. I'm a leader over here in my job where I've got 10 people reporting to me. That's where I'm a leader. And they're limiting their view of self-leadership to that, as opposed to other parts of their life where, again, they may have influence and they're leading in that respect. So you want to speak to that in the context of, again, pursuing your spark?
You know, I think about that if somebody has that, I'm the boss of 10 people and this is where I lead, and they feel secure in that, more power to you. But they're overlooking a big part of, for instance, I'm a grandparent now. I'm a leader to my grandkids. I'm a leader to the people that are reading my book, because I am an authority that people look up to, and it's not to be underestimated what we know and what we can share with others. And not in a like I'm the boss position, but it's the knowledge that we have and that spark that we can ignite in other people to pursue their spark, to pursue their next step. And so that spark of being a leader and helping people grow is within all us. And I think sometimes we're just not looking wide enough to see the possibilities.
And sometimes we lose sight of that. Sometimes we almost even take it for granted. So that's a great reminder of the fact that we need to be more conscious, more aware of our own self-worth, our own value, and that's part of self-leadership as well. So I want to shift gears to another topic that's in your book. This topic, Heike, is not a big topic for me, and maybe it's been more there than not there, but I don't think about it a lot, and that's the concept of curiosity. I don't use the word curiosity, but I have a hunch that when you unpack it, that maybe there's aspects of the way I've been living my life that maybe exude curiosity, but you tell me, what role does that play in pursuing your spark?
Curiosity has always been something that was really innate to me. I'm curious about everything. It's a very important part in my book because I want people to be more curious about what they can do and what's out there. And being curious also in a business sense lowers the pressure. It gives you the freedom to explore in a safe environment without having uncertain experience, to move forward. And that curiosity helps you with clarity. You have a chance to build clarity about the things you explored, and I want to know more about it. And then you go back again into more curiosity about till you find what it is that really lights you up and lights up your spark. So curiosity is just fun too.
What about the person who's listening and they're saying, maybe my spark is not what it used to be? What do you say to that person besides, of course, get your book, and that's going to be linked up in the show notes. But, what's something that somebody can take away from this conversation, maybe an action step that they can take in terms of, like, they feel like their spark is gone? What can they start to do?
When we feel our spark is gone, we know that there's a gap. There's something missing. And I feel that we have the opportunity now to move forward with baby steps. And I think of a client of mine that it always comes to, or used to come to me and said, oh, I want a new workout plan. I want a nutrition plan. I want a new plan for everything. And then she would come back and none of the plans would be materializing. And I said, well, listen, today I'm not going to give you a plan. I said, what would it mean for you, and let's use walking as an example, what would it mean for you to actually start doing something? And I said, why don't you put your shoes by your door? I don't ask you to start the habit of walking. I'm asking you to just put the shoes by the door and see if you actually do something with them. I'm not asking you to walk. Then she comes back and she says, I walked. I was by the door and I saw the shoes and I said, heck, the shoes are already there. I'm just going to go for a walk like Heike said. And that was a big win. The little momentum that she's getting from the shoes being there, the little spark to actually feeling like she can do it. Because if your spark is gone, you feel like you can't do anything. But if an external trigger, like in my story, the shoe, is the thing that pushes you forward, it's the thing, but something that triggers momentum in you that will help you feel, I would say fulfilled, but it will help you feel good. And it creates the feeling of, I can do this. I haven't lost my spark.
You said a lot there that resonates. You said a lot that actually I also talk about. The expression of, if you believe you can, you're right. And if you believe you can't, you're right. And I think part of your story is maybe in that client's example, she didn't believe she could until you gave her that approach of putting the shoes by the door. And then she said, I believe I can do this. And the mindset shift was, I believe I can, and then did. Mm-hmm. And then, wow, what an impact that had on her. It also gave her fulfillment because, as I think Heike, I say that fulfillment is associated with achievement. So when we achieve something, we experience that powerful emotion of fulfillment, which is what this podcast is all about, Life Fulfilled Podcast. Heike, I love talking with you. I love this conversation. I love your book, Pursue Your Spark. Tell us, where can people connect with you and, get into your world?
Please find me, either my book, anywhere you can buy the book, my beautiful orange book, Pursue Your Spark. Find me through Pursue Your Spark or at HeikeYates.com. And you can find me on all social media. You can also send me an email through my website, HeikeYates.com. I'd love to hear from you. And I'd love you to check out my book and see if it resonates with you.
Thank you, Heike. You are prolific on social media. So congratulations for all the work that you're doing and really getting this message out. So thank you so much for not only joining me back on the podcast for this episode, but for sharing some of the insights from your book, Pursue Your Spark. And of course, all that will be linked up in the show notes. So thank you so much, Heike.
Thank you, Bernie.